All right. Hello, my loves, and welcome back to I'll Have What She's Having, the podcast where we don't have to take life lying down, unless, of course, we want to because we're having sex on a bed, and that's actually extremely comfy sometimes, and we don't always need to be adventurous. Okay? Sometimes we just want to be comfortable. All right. So today we're talking about something that I think we've all been getting completely wrong. The idea that desires fade, that confidence shrinks, and somehow as we age, we become less sexual, less powerful, and less alive? Absolutely not. I don't think so. Your most confident, embodied, and magnetic sexual self is definitely still ahead of you. I can almost guarantee it. I have heard countless embodied sexual women telling me that sex just gets better with age. Because think about it, you've been doing it for longer, you're more confident, you don't give two fucks about what other people think. Yeah, sounds great. But of course, that's not the most popular opinion. And so today's conversation with Dr. Julie Merriman brings nearly 30 years of experience of helping women break out of what she calls the virtuous trap or the self-sacrifice and come back home to their bodies, their pleasure, and their power. Our kind of people, you know? She is the architect of soul joy and the author of In Pursuit of Soul Joy, and most recently released on April 1st her new book, Are We Gonna Have Sex or What? Dr. Julie is the voice behind the top 100 motivational podcast called Compassion Fatigue Cure and the host of Sexy After 50. She uses polyvagal science, somatic wisdom, and chakra psychology to melt the nervous system's freeze response that kills desire and fuels burnout. From her Texas branch, she leads a movement of high-achieving women who are done being invisible. She bridges the gap between clinical neuroscience and raw human desire, proving that midlife isn't a decline, it's a hostile takeover of your own life. So in this episode, we go deep into what it actually means to feel sexy after 50, and honestly, after any age. This episode is so key to listen to at younger ages too, to make sure that you're not selling yourself short. We really need to know and to hear this kind of wisdom from women of all ages so that we can pass it on to each other. There's not enough in today's day of sitting around with people from different generations and hearing their stories and hearing what's possible and hearing what they've gone through. And so today, you've got that chance. Aging isn't a decline, it's a homecoming, it's a reclamation. It's a give less fucks and feel more pleasure kind of era. And so let's encourage that narrative. Let's hear that narrative from someone who's actually lived it. And if you've ever felt disconnected from your body, if you've ever wondered where your desire went, if you're ready to create a sex life that just keeps getting better and better with time, this one's for you. And of course, before we get into it, I of course have a few quick announcements. So first, my dears, let me tell you about my retreats. There are only going to be 2 this year. And so the first one is happening a week from when this episode launches, and we have one precious spot left. So if you're really on it, you could still grab it. Wild Woman Rising is happening May 7th to 10th on the Sunshine Coast of BC, Canada, and it will be a celebration of all that it is to be a wild woman, a sexual being, and we will awaken our pleasure as we dance around the fire naked and howl at the moon. I cannot wait. And then next February, so that's February 2027, we will be doing the same thing but in Mexico, near Cancun. This one is called Wild Women Unleashed, and it's not even been launched publicly yet, but you can go reserve your spot on my website. You can use the application link. It'll be a wild awakening into our feminine natures. We will be deep in the jungle, surrounded by sisterhood in a luscious retreat space, learning how to follow our pussy's desires and becoming our most free and preciously wild selves. So the links are in the show notes to sign up for those. Next, we've got sex coaching. If you want to work with me, I offer a 15-minute consultation call where we can chat about what's going on for you in sex and relationships. You get to feel heard, understood, seen, and you can book that first call from a link in the show notes as well. Next, if you want to try out some of my best sex techniques, your best way is through my free offer called the Pleasure Portal. It's 15 minutes. It's a guided pleasure breathwork where you get to come alive in your sexuality and practice some skills and some stuff that you definitely know how to do, but you might not have realized is actually pretty key to amazing sex. So if you want to grab that, that's also in the show notes. And last but not least, I haven't mentioned this one in a while, so I really want to give a shout out to the most amazing sex toys I have ever found. They are crystal yoni wands and yoni eggs and these beautiful butt plugs. And they're offered by this store called Wands. So it's wands.com, wands with two A's. And if you head on over there and you check out their stuff, you can use my code KRIS10, that's Kris with a K, so KRIS 10 for a sweet 10% off. And your pleasure will definitely thank you later. All right, now on to the episode. Hello, good morning, Julie. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm so excited to chat with you about all things being sexy over 50. So yeah, would you like to start by telling everyone about yourself? How did you come to be here today?
Oh, yeah. Thank you so, so much for having me. Uh, Gosh, what a journey, right? Last 62 years. How did I get here? You know, as I have come into myself as I've gotten older, I realize how important it is that we are completely comfortable in our skin, and our sexuality is a huge piece of that. And through my research and working with clients over the years, I've come to realize how important nervous system regulation is for us to have some fun in the bedroom and be show up comfortable and who we're meant to be. So it's been a long journey of research and screwing stuff up and backing up and starting over to get here.
Amazing. Yeah, and so you have this phrase, or like there's the phrase like sexy after 50, right? And I'm curious what that means to you. Not like the internet version of it, not like there's so many different kind of people talking about it, but what does it mean to you?
Right. And actually, that is the name of my podcast, Sexy After 50. And what it means to me is that very thing I was just saying, feeling embodied in fully embodied, fully embodied. To hell with what anyone thinks about how I look or thinks about what I'm doing. I'm comfortable with who I am, and I can show up just as sexy as I want to show up uh, because, because I'm fully embodied and I know who I am, and I don't have shame or fear about stepping forward and just being me. I think that's really what it is. Just be yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, I think like I really loved in our conversation earlier about how you were like you were just so excited about your crone phase of life. Like that just really lit me up when you were like, "Yes, I'm in my sexy crone years." And like and I mentioned that to someone like in the in between and they were so shocked. They were like, "Oh my gosh, like the word crone like they like almost shrunk away from it." So there's almost this like shrinking and I found that so interesting. And so
Yeah.
like can you talk to me about what that means to you?
Yes, and when you say the chrome phase, I think of some Disney cartoons we watch with those witches that are, and that's not how it is these days. I mean, I proudly have my hormone replacements and I do not apologize for that. I love my estrogen, my testosterone, I love it all. I love that I can show up in my bedroom and be just as juicy with my partner as I was. Well, probably better than I was at 20 because at 62, I am sovereign. I know my body. I show up. I know what I'm going to put up with and what I'm not going to put up with. And I think that's embracing that crone stage. God, girl, we are wise. We have so much wisdom that we have learned from the screw ups I spoke of. And I think we don't embrace failure like we need to in this country. It's like, oh, you failed. No, I learned. I wouldn't have learned that if I'd not screwed that up. So I think it's as we approach crone stage age, it's a it's a magical time. I don't have to change diapers. I don't have to cook dinner. I don't have to do shit I don't want to do. I can um I've let go. I've fired that people pleaser, all that fawning, like, oh, will you like me if this? You're going to like me, you're not going to like me. And I think we can learn so much. And at, from sitting at the, and I don't mean literally, women sitting at my feet, but by embracing older women and hearing their stories and their journeys, I think we can learn so much. I mean, like I hung out with my 85-year-old mother yesterday. I took her to a baby shower and shit, I learned all kinds of stuff from her. That you just don't think about. We're not done just because our hair turns gray. It's not a scary time, and I'm not going to get that wart on my nose, like the,
No,
the,
absolutely not. And so I'm curious, like, what did you learn from that conversation?
well, I'm I guess it's because my mom, I'm thinking I'm gonna turn red, which I'm so comfortable in my sexuality. Well, I was talking to her about I have a new book coming out called "Are We Gonna Have Sex or What?" And that's what I said to my husband on our first date. He's younger. I had to kind of show him the ropes, so and I thought I was gonna have to wait weeks for sex, and I was ready for it. So, anyway, we were kind of giggling about that, and mother said, "Well, with your father and I," and she she went into, now they divorced, they divorced, but she said, it's so cute. She said, "But sex was never our problem." I love that. I love that. I love that at 85, and she could sit there and tell me that, and she would you could see she was kinda thinking, and she kinda smiled and said, "Oh, I miss him." So, it just it's just sweet. Sweet, sweet, sweet. And you know what she told me? She said, and I think this is so wise, and you're only gonna get this from a crone, I think, and she's a little more advanced than I am. She said, "Fuck society. They cannot tell us what we need to do." That is beautiful. And it's so rare mother says that word, but she meant it. Like, and I think
Yeah.
I wish I could have felt that at 20. I wish I could have felt that at 30. I was so busy trying to prove something. I think when we get to this side of it, there's nothing to prove. It's an
Mhm.
evolution, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Evolution of,
Abs Absolutely. Yeah, and, like, I I think something we've really lost in today's society is that, like, sharing of knowledge between the generations, especially, right? Like, sitting around, like, even as, like, a young kid and then having, like, 2 or 3 generations even, like, of women just around you having conversations, sharing, like, what it's like to be here, what it's like to be here, and instead, we're fed all this media that tells us to be really, really afraid of what comes next, and so, it's really beautiful even in my own life, I'm starting to have, like, more differences in ages of the women around me, and it's beautiful, and I love it so much. It's like, "Oh, yes, you" like, I have one of my best friends who's they have a kid who's 20 years old, and it's like, "That's really cool," because I haven't even had children yet, and still don't know if I will. Like, I'm 31, right? Like, it's so lovely and wonderful and such an important piece to have friends from every single part of life going through it all at the same time.
it's so wise.
Yeah,
So
and so yeah, so I'm curious, like, what would you say to, like to somebody my age? What would you say to somebody in their 30s or even, like, somebody who's about to be menopausal too? Like, I think that's a really almost scary phase for people to go through is, like, they're about to shift their entire cycle and their entire way of being.
oh, so many things are coming to my head. First, I think it's eminently important, especially in our 30s, to learn to fully embody who we are and not, I think self compassion is the word I want to bring in. We have so many expectations and, oh, I got to do this and I got to get this done. If oh my God, I got to get this done. And you wake up in your 50s and you go, is this all there is to fucking life? Isn't there more to life? I've been so busy trying to hit these goals and do and to be able, I would invite, and I say this to my 30-year-old, myself as a 30-year-old. I've said it to my daughter-in-laws to forgive yourself, to not be so hard on yourself, to find a space to just be. be sure you go out in the morning and take in that juicy sunrise because our nervous system needs that reset. But to remember that there's more to life than just goals we're set out to do. To take time each day to exhale. I'm surprised as I'm working with my clients and they're like this, they don't even realize they're like this. And I go, okay, release your shoulders, breathe. What's your pelvic floor doing? Like, oh shit, I'm braced. Well, no wonder you can have an orgasm. If you're braced like that, it's gonna get in the way. So just to be nice to yourself as we're going through these things and as we come upon menopause and I pray. I just hope that as you get closer to 50, there's far more information out there that makes that journey normal for you because it's normal. We're going to lose our hormones, but we're not going to lose ourself. So our identities are so tied to our child rearing years and what happens when that goes. Well, you have better orgasms and, and more time for sex without worried about the kids beating on the bedroom door and stuff. There's more time to be you. And I promise I am not the same body I was at 30. I mean, my body has changed. And it- and fortunately, my husband and I keep novelty in our sex because that's so important for our nervous system. But the way that, I approach sex has changed too. I mean, I know myself much better. I know what positions work for me better. I've always been pretty spicy. I'm not afraid to try new things, but that's one thing I would tell our young, our 30 to 50-year-olds, um, try some novelty. Because if you're not orgasming like you used to, if you're thinking, "God, I don't have to worry about sex," it's because, well, one reason, you need to add some novelty back into that bedroom because our nervous system gets bored, and the first thing that's gonna go is pleasure and desire, so it's kinda sitting back smoking a cigarette going, "Well, this is boring." You know? You know what? Show me something different.
Yes. Absolutely. I mean, like, over and over, that is the message that I receive from basically anybody I talk to is like, just like novelty is one of those like key ingredients to life. But then there's also like, I feel like sometimes when I really like, when deep down inside there's like this desire for novelty, I'm like, okay, burn down the house and leave, leave the country, like do something extreme. And it's like, wait, no, don't do that. Don't do that.
That mo
So how do you, yeah,
Yeah.
right? So, like, how do you invite novelty into your sex life and your life? I think everybody wants to know that kind of thing because 'cause they're all like, "How do I get that?"
Right. It can be especially and I say this with lots of love because I've done lots of marriage counseling in the 30 years I've done counseling. Um, Having a conversation about what you really want, about what really feels good is a great place to start because so many people, and they don't have that language. They've been shamed. Oh, women can't have pleasure. Oh, I can't say that. The hell you can't. And say it. Now, I do invite when we start to have those conversations, do not do it in bed because we don't want our partner to think they're doing something wrong and get defensive. The best time to do it, and you can be naked, you don't have to be clothed, but it's out of the bedroom. There's something I'm kind of wanting to experiment with something, kind of wanting to talk to you about some stuff, whatever, but to have that conversation, that can be a really good place for novelty to start. And tell that nervous system because we've got to get it off survival into regulated and let that nervous system know it's okay. Now, I just want to invite if you've never had that conversation before, your nervous system is going to think you're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger. You might sweat. You might. It, you just got to work through that. You just got to work through that and let your nervous system know we're safe. This is just a conversation. But so starting with a conversation, which I know sounds vanilla, but you got to start somewhere. And if you've never done that, that's a big novelty place to start. Introducing sex toys or different. I mean, maybe you've had the same vibrator for 15 years. Get rid of the damn thing and go, go. It is so fun. My husband and I love to go. when we're in different towns to hit sex stores and just because they could be so different. I mean, just the one in Dallas looks very different from the one in Waxahachie. I mean, it's um, so that's fun to, let's go sex toy shopping together. Let's try something different. Let's remove shame. You got to remove shame from all of it. And I have found I love my sex store workers. They have such good information to share with you if it's a from a different lube to hey, this is pretty popular right now as far as sex toys go. And i- so novelty could come in it's so many packages. But I work with a lot of ladies who have a lot of shame around bringing a sex toy into the bedroom and working around that there's a lot of pleasure and joy to be had, especially as you move into a 50-year-old body. Your clitoris might not respond exactly like it used to. So having that talk with your partner about, hey, let's try using this sex toy together, not, during sex or you can respond in all kinds of ways. But I guess my biggest invitation is to remove shame, start the conversation, and experiment. And sometimes we like to do fun stuff like going to a strip club or going on little. There's some great Airbnbs that are just for sex days that have all kinds of um, mechanisms built into the house where you can do some kind of fun stuff if you're into bondage on however that continuum is to if you just want to stick your toe in the water. But um, step outside. I used to tell my students this back when I taught high school: get out of the damn box. Step out of the box and be creative. Because that on the other side of that, on the other side of that, Chris, is where fullness and vitality and lusciousness lives.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh my gosh, well said. I just love that. I love the breadth of, like, there's Airbnbs that have this kind of, like, pleasure stuff for you, like, I have never thought of that. That sounds amazing. Like, even just to go there and be like, "Look at what they have." It's like shopping, but you can, like, try it out, and,
Yeah,
like, you don't have to actually do anything. But yes, I think it's so important to talk about shame, and it comes up a lot, and it is always a question of like, okay, yes, shame, but what is a real step to actually removing that shame? And I think like one of the ways I like to look at it is like, okay, change your perspective to when something happens, take it in as information instead of as like, yes, it's going to come in as shame. You're going to recognize it in the same way, but then can you change it to information? And so you've mentioned a lot about the nervous system. And so is there some way that we can like start to, like, take in shame, but then kind of transform it into information?
absolutely. I do a lot of chakra psychology with my and somatic work with my clients. And the very first thing we're gonna do is, oh, is that shame I'm feeling? And you're gonna do a full body scan from head, eyes, throat, chest, tummy, down to your the tippy toes without judgment, right? No judgment. Judgment doesn't serve anyone. We are bringing curiosity. What kind of physical sensation? And this can be very foreign if you're not used to being embodied, but kind of physical sensation am I feeling? Why is that so tight in my chest? Curiosity. What does it have to tell me? I guarantee you your body has something to tell you. I guarantee you it does. You have to breathe into it. You have to be with it and just soften it. I mean, I like because that's your heart chakra, which is green. And I like to have my clients envision a beautiful green energy just swirling around, right? If it happens to be here, but swirling around, loosening, softening, informing. What is there for me to learn? Where is that coming from? What does it have to tell me? And breathing through that and allowing yourself to hear whatever needs to be heard. Oh, well, that's resentment from swallowing your truth for 30 years, or, oh, that comes, that's my inner child who was shamed for touching herself when she was 3. And there's a lot of inner child work to be done, a lot of inner child work because she is, she's right here. she's right here. And generally, especially when it comes to sexuality, it's some old message or God forbid, some old trauma that has followed you into adulthood and is parking front and center. But we can work through it. But the very first thing to start is to start that full body scan and understand where I'm feeling what. When your partner's touching you, what am I feeling? Where is that come? I mean, that's some tantric stuff that is yummy to do together to really, we're not, orgasm is not the goal here, just embodying and being with each other. And if, like, I've been with my partner for 35 years, so I'm very safe with him and I'm very okay for him to, I'm feeling this and for him to put his hand there and my hand over it. And together we breathe and work through it. Just because you don't have to be partnered, but if you are partnered, it can be very powerful to work through that shame and to have that witness. I think witnessing, and I've run addiction centers, I've run psych hospitals, I'm old, I've done some things. But what I've noticed in all that, sweetie, is to have someone witness your pain and witness the energy working through it is very important, very important.
Yeah, it's interesting as we talk about it, like, my whole body is, like, relaxing and being soothed by the experience of just listening to that, and, like, and and that is, very similar to how I work through with my clients as well, and again, it's that, like, "Oh, yes, yes," and even the expansion of the green, of the heart space, and just I think it's so important to hear that so many times in so many different ways from so many people to then go like, "Yes, okay, this is what we're all finding here." Like, this is what's seen everywhere with everyone and that it's okay. And even just mentioning that story of, like, being able to pause in the middle of sex and, like, just be held because something's like, being able to recognize that moment when something switches and all of a sudden something's not okay, but it's not a place to judge, it's a place to get curious, it's a place to stop, pause, be held, and be witnessed in it. So,
Yeah,
yeah, thank you for bringing that.
yeah, that's, I stopped at the heart, but we women, sacral chakras, so we hold so much trauma and so forth in our sacral chakra. Now that is where our emotions live, right? And our creativity and our sexuality. And if we've gone through childbirth, I mean, that's complete trauma. Your sacral's going, what the hell? And for me, it was C-section, so I was cut open right there. But I notice as I work individually with women, and and I'm also a yoga instructor, so I move them, through yoga moves. And as we open up those hips, that sacral chakra, tears, a lot of release can happen because we carry, and I think I know we do, we carry ancestral trauma there from our mothers and our grandmothers and great grandmothers. So that release is really important too for we women, um, as we're wanting to release shame and all that yummy stuff.
Yeah. All that yummy stuff.
I
And
yummy.
that's the thing, it's like right, like, there's almost, like, a beauty in that resistance, there's beauty in that shame and just, like, being in the realness of the human experience, because
Right,
that is what sex is, it's like you open yourself up to the most vulnerable parts of being human. And it's just right, so, like, that's part of it. I think that's also a lesson in it, like, it is part of the experience to be so open to all these bits coming out.
right.
And, like, so many people stop and try to hold that away, and it's more like, "No, no, no, invite it in. That's part of it. That's
It's the
part of this
yummy.
experience."
Absolutely, because if we stop it, it's gonna stagnate. It sticks. We've gotta move it on through, and it sucks to feel bad. But life is 70-30. 70 great, 30 it gonna suck, and you just need to embrace that and recognize it's gonna help you enjoy that other 70%. We spend a lot of time and energy wanting to avoid that painful part, but it is yummy. It is it's part of the juice of life. Um, the yin and the yang, right? Both sides of that.
Yeah,
That
absolutely. And so you've talked a lot about being like really comfortable in your body, and I absolutely love that. I love the confidence that you bring forward, and you also talk about like that your body is completely different. And I think even myself, like I am a little bit scared that like I love my body right now, but I'm like, but what happens when it changes? And and embracing that change. And so I'm curious, what has been the biggest like lesson you've taken from it? What have you been able to discover through through like loving your body through all the different phases and chapters of life?
W Our body is amazing. My body has brought 2 beautiful boys into well, they're men, no, but, yeah, 2 beautiful babies into this world. My body has given me amazing orgasms and t ch has connected I mean, that I'm tear up. I love my husband so much, and that the way we connect and it's like a dance, right? It's a symphony, together. You couldn't do it without your bodies. When I'm just a spirit, I don't know what that's gonna look like, but our body, it's gives us so much. I have taught aerobics since the 1980s, back when Jane Fonda and her thong still I mean, I've been teaching since then, because I like to move, and be embodied. And I used to could teach 3 or 4 aerobic classes a day, work full time, raise a family. Girl, now I can't do that anymore. I mean, part of my body changing. I can't, I don't have that stamina that I had. I can ride my Peloton for an hour in the morning, do my weights and I've accepted that. I don't have to kill myself to exercise anymore. So that's just one little piece. And I used to could run 5 miles. Now I'm honored if I can get 2 in. And because my knees give out on me. My ass does not look like it used to look. I mean, it used to be kind of bubbly and now it's not. Gravity has gotten a hold of it. But, it's still it's doing what it needs to do. I can sit here, I can walk so I think what I'm trying to say is we have to learn to be grateful for what our body does, not so much what its appearance, if that makes sense. That, because it's
Yeah.
gonna change, and that's normal. Um
Yeah, I love that, like, anchoring into, like, the things that it does for you. And even, like, I sometimes find, like, a gratitude practice around the things that it does really helps. Like, yeah, like, there's moments where you're like, "Oh, I wish you didn't look that way," but it's like, "Wait, no, 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 what am I talking about? I'm so grateful that you helped me walk in the forest today.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that you helped me connect with my partner in that last sexual experience. I'm so grateful of all the wonderful things you do." And then, yeah, once you get into that awe and wonder about, like, wow, my body's incredible. It does so many things.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And, I had breast cancer last year, and I had to go through all the things, which really made me cognizant of our body. It can be a little naughty at times, and here comes Miss Cancer. But on the other side of it, I can look back and be so thankful that I'm still fully functioning. I'm still I mean, uh, I'm still able to do all the things, and I couldn't do that without my body.
Mhm. Yeah, right? It's a terrifying moment, but also a really, grounding moment to have, like, some of your body's functions taken away from you, even temporarily, or the threat of it, and, like, all of a sudden, there's that, like, deep gratitude that comes through again of like, right, I'm just so grateful that I can. Like, all it takes is one injury. All it takes is breaking your leg to go, holy, I was taking it for granted that I could walk, you
Yeah,
know?
you do. During that cancer treatment, I mean, I was when you're around a lot of really sick people that can't even walk. They can't get out of their wheelchair. I mean, it really brings forward I felt guilty for being in there because 'cause I'm trotting in like, "Oh, no." Guilty isn't the right word. It just brought to my forefront that that exact thing I need to be very thankful for what my body is doing because 'cause I'm not wheelchair bound. I can do all kinds of stuff. And, that's an outlier. That cancer experience was an outlier. But as we age, I think we really that gratitude practice you speak of, once our nervous system is regulated, that frontal cortex comes online and we can practice gratitude. We can practice meditation. That's why it's so important that we learn to regulate that nervous system because otherwise we're doing all this meditation and gratitude. And we're thinking, why don't I feel any better? But when it's regulated, those are wonderful things for us to do. And to really, I mean, research backs it up. You're going to build new neural pathways. You're going to feel like a new woman. And it's just simple. It doesn't cost a thing to have gratitude or meditate.
No, it is, but it's amazing how much you are aware of that and still need that reminder, right? Like, I you know all the science, you're so sure of how wonderful this is, and you wanna bring it into your life more, and yet, yeah, it takes a second sometimes to go, "Oh, right. When's the last time I was grateful for something?
Right. Yeah.
Okay."
Our our little brain, it gets habituated and it doesn't want to bring new things in all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm so curious to talk to you about your new book. Y Are We Gonna Have Sex or What? I love the title. It's such a wonderful, and like you shared before, that's, like, the first thing you shared with your husband. You were like, you were, wanting to connect with him, and you're like, "Are we gonna have sex or what?" And so tell me about, like, what is the main narrative of the book, and, yeah, what kind of research has gone into it? I'm curious to hear.
I'm so excited about my book. I'm doing the first edit right now, and I have my editor ready, and we're doing the cover design right now, which is so fun. But it's a guide for women over 50. Although any woman is going to get something out of it, preparing right for where we're going for that crown stage, or yes, crown stage. But it is a guide to help you feel embodied and alive because what happens so often after years and years of over functioning, being responsible for everyone, being usually the nervous system in the room that's keeping everything together, thriving in your career, all the things we do, by the time we arrive in our 50s, we're exhausted. Our nervous system is flagging a white flag going, dude, can't do this anymore. We are living on a stress cocktail of adrenaline and cortisol that is not good for us. Hello, breast cancer. I think that's where that came from. But, um, and our system is just saying enough. So this book is very much a journey through nervous system regulation. I I give a teach my professor talk. I give a teach. Then I give every chapter has something to actually do to help regulate that nervous system, go practice something in the bedroom, whatever it might be, and then a sex truth. But I'm talking, one part is all about our hormones, one part is all about adding spice back into your bedroom, one part is about your radiance era, where we really go through some eroticism and some fun things. And then I wind up in with, living that radiant chapter forever and always.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm curious to hear about the spice. The spice part. What's your favorite part you wrote in the spice part of the book?
My very favorite part in the spice I like them all. Um, one thing I'm big on women doing is getting to know their vulva and clitoris and vagina and, being very comfortable with touching whatever. I ain't that's necessarily as spicy as I wanna go, but there's another the burlesque part, I think probably is I love burlesque shows. Love burlesque shows. So how to use, so once we get in touch with all our, lady parts, right, and know how to, uh, we know what they look like, we know how we can touch them and make things feel good because your clitoris starts changing as you get older, and it's important that it's not a one and done kinda thing, it's something you need to do on a regular basis. So, that's a self pleasure mapping. I have a partner's pleasure mapping, which is always yummy. Um, and we talk about bondage and we talk about all the different things that some people are always comfortable talking about, but they need to get their ass comfortable and being who they are and exploring things. And then going to burlesque shows or strip clubs or uh, we there's a little threesome stuff if someone's into that. Maybe someone's not into that, but it's okay. You get to choose your spice. It's like when the salt and pepper's on the table, you choose what you want. Maybe you don't want salt and pepper in this, but so
Yeah, no, I love that. I love the little bit of everything. And do you have any stories from your own life about moments where you like saw somebody else come into that aha moment? I really love those where it's like, "Oh yeah, like, oh, I just saw my friend like really reconnect with their own spice or their own like
yes.
joie de vivre."
Yes, I can think of a friend who went through colon cancer and she was in 50s. She was in her 50s when she went through it. Anyway, the radiation killed her vagina. Absolutely dried it up, killed it. And she and her husband were so pissed off because nobody warned them. For God's sake, warn someone that's going to happen. And they had had quite a spicy, lively love life. Lots of role play. There's a lot of role play in the book too. But anyway, lots of role play and, just a really dynamic, healthy sex life. And she was broken. I mean, her literally, I mean, it wasn't just a nervous system kind of thing. Literally, her vagina had been cooked by radiation. And the husband was so, I mean, he was mourning. She was too. There's literal grief that's going to go into losing that part of your life, which they thought they had. They tried all kinds of things. Porn can sometimes be a great way back in. Erotica novels can be a way back in. They tried all kinds of things. But and I saw her, a part of her just, she wasn't herself. I mean, yeah, she didn't, you don't feel good too, right? You're coming back from cancer. You don't feel good. Um, and he had talked to me as an aside. He thought he was just going to go ahead and have an affair because he had to meet this side of his life, which is I mean, that's between a couple. If she's okay with it, great, but let's not do it behind someone's back. Let's talk about it. But, that's their thing. Anyway, long story short, they continued to be affectionate with each other, to just do tantric kind of stuff, just be present with each other, be with each other, not necessarily with that orgasm in mind, just, just that connection piece that was so important. And long story short, through a matter of months in where they decided, and in fact, they had the rule intercourse was off the table. They had to find other ways to connect sexually. They did. They managed to find a way to connect. And you could see them both come back to life, both come back to life. But they didn't give up on each other. They kept going at it. They kept going at it. Because what happens also, Chris, we have this expectation in our mind of how things are supposed to be. And that's what was kicking their ass in the beginning. They had to reframe and come at it from a completely different way to get back to that juiciness that they had experienced together. And that's there for us.
Mhm.
We gotta watch those expectations.
Yeah. Yeah, expectations really do kill stuff, doesn't it?
Oh, right.
Like, yeah, I mean, I've had experiences like that as well, but that's a really beautiful story. Thank you for sharing it. That like
Beautiful.
it
Yeah.
it really tugs at my own heartstrings in a very real way because of all of the times I've seen that happen in others, the times I've experienced that in myself of like, it's really hard to step away from our expectations. And there is a lot of trust that goes into being in a relationship where, there's that trust that they're not going to leave me. They're not going to move away from what we've built. They're going to continue to be here with me. And yeah, like I've been through it multiple times already with different partners where like yeah, there's lots of patience that was needed, that, like, not everything works the way you want it to, and I think this happens so much more than a lot of us realize. Like, we think that everyone out there we're looking at is having these perfect, shiny sex lives, and it's just not true. But again, like, when you can appreciate life for the messiness that it is, and for sex as the messiness that it is, it's like, this is yeah, again, this is the juice. This is
Yeah,
the amazing
it's the
yeah.
human it's the absolute human piece. All expectations do are cause cognitive dissonance. We want it to be this way, but it's this way. And that's a theoretical it's a clinical term, but it happens. And we gotta that's where being present is so important. So important because I promise as you age, just like I had breast cancer, my husband had brain cancer while I had breast cancer. I I I accused him, and I know it's not true, it was a joke, that he had unprotected sex and gave me the cancer, and it was a joke. I know that couldn't have happened, but that's how we kinda work through things, but I tell you, after 3 brain surgeries and radiation and all he went through, it took a hot minute to get him back online for sex, and I we have to, and I do write about that in the book too. As we get older, sex while you're ill, sex, the various ways sex can show up because it's still a part of our life. Um, and him having to talk to his doctor about Viagra. God, the word left left my mouth. Um, Viagra, because there was a while that was the only way that he could perform. Now he is back to his full self, and he's off the Viagra. but as it's that expectation thing as well. We've gotta love our partner where they're at and know that there's lots of ways to be satisfied. There's lots of ways to be satisfied. Just check your expectations at the door.
Yeah, right? Like, what if I was just fully present to my pleasure and whatever happened in this moment? Sometimes harder said than done, but
And that's where that novelty is so important. Let me do this. I'm gonna bring an ice cube in the bedroom and just be curious, Let me just play with this ice cube. That can wake up on your wrist, inner thighs. I mean, you might find, um erotic areas you didn't even know existed, by playing with I think I love temperature play, I think that's kinda fun.
temperature play is very fun. Yes, and I love that idea of, like, novelty doesn't have to be big. It can literally be as big as an ice cube,
That's
right? Something normal in your house.
that's right.
It's tiny realistically, but all you do is bring that into the bedroom and all of a sudden everything is different.
Everything changes. A feather. We have chickens. I'm gonna wash that feather, but, a feather can yeah, yeah.
Oh, yes, a chicken feather.
I'll have to mail you one. That it'll be
Oh,
washed.
so
It'll be
good.
washed.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, definitely. And then, you can put it together and make a little chicken feather duster. It'll be great.
Yes! Yeah.
And so I'm curious what do you think, like, kind of returning to the, like, yeah, sexy over 50, like, what do you think women tend to misunderstand the most about their sexual power as they age? And, like, what changes have you sensed in your own sexual power and the sexual power of the women around? Because I feel like we have this interpretation that your sexual power is stronger when you're younger and that it'll kind of, like, diminish as you get older. But I'm sure it's the exact opposite.
It I think so, because when we're younger, we're so busy taking care of life, building life. And then depending on the age you have kids, I was I was a ripe 19 when I had my child. So I became an empty nester pretty early. But on the other side, you have so much more vitality and just your bandwidth grows because you have more time and energy to figure out who the hell you are. It's a homecoming. It is a homecoming. You get to excavate the woman that is buried under responsibilities and whatever we got buried under and have a homecoming. Now, it is different, and I think that social media, TV, blah blah blah, sex sells, right? And cute 20 something is a lot easier to sell as sexy than a voluptuous 60 something, So I think that gals my age, we struggle in really the right word. We just have to get right and be very confident in ourselves. I We become more invisible for things like that, if you will. Um, and our wisdom and the things that we bring to life at this point, I think can be overlooked. Uh, we know our bodies better than have ever known them. We know so much about ourselves, and staying confident and stepping into that, I think, is really important. Um, because I know, I mean, at 63, I'm just different. I show up different. I still love to dress. I still love to, um, I'm still me, but I'm not as self-conscious as I was stepping into a room at 30, let's say.
Mhm.
Um, not as many men are looking at my boobs. Not just me. It's a different thing, which is fine. Um, I'm just more confident. I don't know. Does that am I
Yeah.
rambling? Does that make sense?
No, it does. It makes total sense. And I think the term invisible really strikes me because I feel like that is something that like that gets tossed around a lot and gets mentioned in this space of like women tend to sometimes start to feel more invisible and they feel like they need to somehow keep up with the younger generation in the room. And so I'm curious, what do you have any kind of things that you do, things you see others doing to almost fight against that invisibility, or just be like, no, I'm still here, and like this is me standing in my power. Nuh-uh. No, I don't get erased.
Yeah. And that's where I'm at. At about 45, I fell off this cliff that I mean, not literally, emotionally, that I didn't know existed, where my give a fuck would, you know, that, um, I get to choose. You know, I get to choose if I'm relevant. I get to choose if I'm invisible or not. And I have enough confidence in myself, belief in myself. Not I'm not full of myself, that's not what I mean. My daddy would have said, "Don't you be conceited." And that's a whole story. Well, my inner child is always at work, but but I can I'm comfortable with me. Maybe that's the word. I'm so comfortable with who I am. I'm comfortable with my boundaries. I'm very comfortable saying no. I'm very comfortable saying, and my yeses are selective yeses that are good yeses. There's a comfortable and a confidence that comes if you do the work. Now, I mean, I've had my therapist, I've had my crisis, read my book in Pursuit of Soul Joy. That's whoo, I crashed. Um, but my recovery and my comeback has been solid. I'm on solid ground. And I'm not dependent on some strange man telling me something to make me feel relevant. I know I'm relevant. I mean, I know I'm comfortable.
Mhm. Yeah, that's what we all want, right? Like that is the results and the feeling we want to all feel in the morning. We wake up in the morning, we look at ourselves and we go, "Yes, I choose." Like I really love that idea of choice, right? That you're stepping into this empowered choice of being who you want to be and saying what you want to say and saying, "I'm fucking relevant. Don't you dare tell me I'm not because I know I am."
Yeah.
Like, that is such a rare and beautiful place to be in this day and age, um, I think, because yeah, again, like, we've been told so many other narratives, and so, yeah, I mean, I think that's my favorite part about these types of conversations. It's just like, here's a different narrative, here's a different way of living, here's a beautiful way of living that I hope inspires everyone listening to say, "This is possible, and this is wholly within your realm of possibility of the life you're gonna lead."
Yeah. It's needed for us to get to that point where we're comfortable in our skin. We're sovereign. We know what we're going to tolerate and not tolerate. And it's okay. You know, we have to give ourselves permission. We have to quit asking and just give ourselves permission to do what we need to do. A lot of clients I work with, it's and you might see this too, but they're just waiting. They didn't know they're waiting for permission. But yeah, we don't have to ask for it. We get to go do what yeah, what feels good each
Yeah,
day.
yeah. And so I guess I have a thought in my mind about like people may be thinking, okay, but this is like that's great and all, but this is feels like a selfish thing, right?
All right. Mhm.
What would you say, right, to the woman who thinks, but that's too selfish to like be in my own power to choose that level of comfortability? What would you say to the fact that like it isn't selfish? It is actually very good for the whole world. Like where do you see the benefits lying?
So that I actually have a keynote where I talk about this. You know that myth that we say you can't pour from an empty cup? I mean, that's an effing lie. We pour from empty cups all the time. And what happens, we become the empty cup. And when we become that empty cup, we are not serving anyone. You're numb, you're depressed. I won't say clinically, but you feel flat. You don't know who you are. There's a resentment that builds because your needs are not getting met. You lose tolerance. I mean, we contract and we get irritable and we're not living life fully. So really, we're doing the world a service when we show up and step into that place where I feel okay. I'm okay. I'm okay in my skin. I'm going to be sure I'm taken care of so I can show up for you my very best. We just show up to life different. And I would give her a huge hug because I'm a hugger. I have to work. I'm a hugger. I'm going to hug you and hold her and hold her because there's some shame and some old messaging that needs to be rewired if those are the messages coming up. Just like I said, my daddy, of course, I'm raised in Fort Worth, Texas in 1963. It was a different world, but daddy, and he's a good Southern gentleman from Virginia. Um, and I had to be the good girl. Y'all as kids do that.
Yeah. Oh, that brings up a lot.
Oh yeah. And that's where that pouring from an empty cup or becoming the empty cup really is about good girl detox that needs to happen. Which is a whole, but if I felt good about anything, like I don't know, I won something at school. He'd go, now don't you go being conceited. Don't you? And I'd always think, oh, I feel like shit about myself or I'm bad. And it took me years to work through that. He didn't know any better. He didn't mean it. Just like I got my PhD in counseling, and he was like, "I'm so proud of you, but that's the dumbest shit I ever heard. Counseling's stupid."
No, he didn't.
He did. He did. But by that time, I'd done my work, and I knew I loved him. I loved him, and I knew not to internalize that because that was his stuff. He didn't know how to tell me he was proud of me any other way. But all that, I mean, I fought that, "Oh, it's selfish to think about me. It's selfish." No, bullshit. Bullshit. I am such a better wife when my cup is full. I am such a better grandmother and mother and friend and goat keeper because I got a bunch of goats out here, that if I show up with my cup full, otherwise there's resentment boiling and we feel guilty and shameful about that resentment and this whole cycle. Girl, this whole cycle. So maybe that was more than you asked, but that's where I'd start with her. But
No, that is perfect. That's amazing. I love that we went like the whole journey there. And thank you so much for sharing about your dad. Cause yeah, that is such a real thing that happens to so many people. And like all of a sudden you're walking around for half of your life thinking that you can't feel pleasure and be happy and be proud of yourself. Otherwise, there's something wrong with you.
right, right.
Yeah.
And that parents, and I do a whole thing with parents. And I love parents. I am a parent, but I promise you, I fuck my boys up three ways from 3 ways from Sunday, and they've done their work, and we're fine. I didn't do it on purpose. I did it because I didn't know any better. Our parents do that. They don't know any better. They're doing the best they can. Um, but we kiddos internalize that stuff, and because we're learning who we are by watching them. Uh, so if you have a lady saying that, I just invite her to get with a good therapist, work on nervous system regulation, and and or a good coach. Just give it a good person to work through that stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, okay. So much wisdom. Thank you so much for sharing all of this.
God,
It's such a wonderful conversation, such warmth you bring to the topic, such like I think one of the things I connect with the most about what you're saying is just this like almost inevitable feeling. You have this sense of like, well, of course I feel this way. And I feel like that's one thing to really take is like that's the feeling that you get when it's true, when it's real, when it's really coming into your life is this feeling of, well, of course I deserve pleasure. Of course I'm going to have the most magical sex life all the way through my entire life. Like I'm going to be one of those people they talk about in nursing homes where the STIs are just popping off because
that's right.
because they're all, horny and still having sex and like no, we don't want to think about our grandparents having sex, but they are.
That-
Everybody's having sex.
that's why we're here.
This is why we're here. Why would they stop? You know? And so, yeah, just that inevitability, that feeling of like, well, of course, this is how life is. Why would we think it's otherwise? Why would we think that we somehow at some point stop being relevant? Why would we think that just because our bodies and hormones shift, that something fundamentally changes and we are still exactly who we're meant to be in that moment?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I love that. Yeah.
So, is there any parting wisdom you'd like to give to our listeners? Anything that, still wants to come through today and like in this topic of just what do you wish they knew right
You're
now in their life?
you're enough. You're right exactly where you need to be. You're right on time and you're enough.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. And if people wanted to find your work and find your books, find your podcast, where would they go?
I hope they do. My website, www.juliemerriman, Merriman, PhD.com. My podcasts are linked there. My books are linked there. I've got a pre-order page for my new book coming out. I've got some kind of fun things going with that. I've got some freebies on there too, if they're interested.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. This has been so wonderful.
Kris, you are amazing. Thank you for what you're doing, sweetie.